I sometimes view exploratory traveling much like The Witcher does.
The trail will test you, force you to move beyond the pain, the fear, the failure. Remember, hesitation will draw danger to you like fire, but trust the path you choose, and it will protect you, even in darkness. As long as you listen. Always listen.
Listening is key. But what are you listening to? What are you listening for? And more importantly, where are you listening? I see listening as first identifying your place of refuge.
But also the places in nature that are feel like refuge to us. On a mountain, have to be climbing a mountain because that's a refuge for them. They find some freedom and sense of renewal where other people would not be comfortable. But the refuges can be found in many different ways, and I think they are attuned to the soul. So there are many places of refuge, and each person, I think, is naturally drawn to certain kinds of refuge. And so that's another way to grow the soul, to have more places of refuge that we're each familiar with and know ways to arrive at.
Once you identify your place of refuge, then it's carving out the time to intentionally be there. You're listening for those small whispers from the soul, that intentional part of the self that doesn't get heard when everything else is just taking over. It's a sense of being instead of doing. And in that being moment, you get a chance to really just hear more of what your heart wants or your soul wants rather than just your logical mind. It's there, a sense of purpose awaits. But whereas some people believe that, there's this one overarching purpose for your whole life, I think that in fact, in the evolution of things, it's much more dynamic. Your purpose can pivot and swing and go different places. And in that sense, you can find an overarching, but you can find purpose within purpose, or overarching themes that end and then begin.
I'm scared that one day the muses will stop speaking to me. Because who are we? When we can no longer do the one thing we were put on this continent to do.
We find a new purpose.
Sometimes in movies, before a purposeful scene, the character will reach down and pick up dirt as a way to kind of ground themselves before the scene starts. Now there's this saying, don't treat your soil like dirt.
Soil is not an inert growing medium, but rather it's teeming with life that provides the foundation of a very elegant symbiotic ecosystem.
And I think that couldn't be more true than right now on an individual and collective level. Treating your soil like dirt, you're not looking at the whole dynamic of things. You're trying to isolate it. Science does that really well. Isolating these different elements and saying, okay, well, you just need nitrogen, and we'll throw a bunch of nitrogen in there and it'll produce a particular result we want, and that's it. When you look at things synergistically, it becomes very apparent. You can't really just isolate one element and expect it to work in the same way. There's so many different dynamic things going on, so many different synchronicities, and so it's seeing the whole part of it. And that's true for the mind, body, soul. We move our bodies in much the same way, isolating particular parts to get a result. And yet, when you look at, I saw this one program, this guy was really fit, and he was, doing the Ironman or something extreme, and he went with the Bushmen for a day, and he just was having a hell of a time. Even the fittest among us, have a hard time. Those Bushmen end up jumping around and traversing in a lot of different ways, using a lot of different muscles all at once, having a bit of patience and pause and keeping on going. And really, it extends to the idea of the dynamics. And so I keep thinking of how all of our lives are kind of the same way. We isolate particular parts to get a result and end up shortchanging the whole synergy of it all. See, for me, it's like when we were born, our parents kind of signed the terms of service for us, and we became part of a corporation, which is the United States of America. All caps. There's another video you can watch here. It's more on what that is. But anytime I sign that terms of service, well, okay, you go along with it. You go along with everything that you're kind of thrown into. And in the process, though, as things move along, more and more, oh my goodness, just look at that. That's just incredible. It's like, okay, yes, you've been signed into this, and all this time, you know, you kind of had to go along until you figure it out. And it's different for everybody when they figure out, oh, wait a minute, this whole process is kind of, you know, screwy. Can't help but thinking. Of course, it's your responsibility for yourself, but also for other people that come after you to say not only, oh, this is screwy, but to actually do something about it. Just amazing. This whole river walk is just one of my favorite hikes of all time is this river walk. Right along the Deschutes River, outside of Bend, Sun River. Wow, what an amazing place. So I think if we come together, listen, and start building now, I think there's results can happen. And each of us has our own unique, when you go to listen, you figure out what that might be. It's taking that time to listen, and then it's connecting to other people. It's also, I think, and I'll call this out, I'll link in the description, but building a crucible of understanding and connection with an audience, because gone are the days when you had to just connect to those around you. Reconnecting to what 107 had said, and all these different elements that have been going on for years and years and years, and yet we're on this time cycle thinking it's going to happen within our lifetime. And I like the idea of what Zach Bush says about a tree falling, and that one tree, just so many things are fed when that tree falls. And I think each of us is like a tree that when we go, our contribution, the more we contribute, the more we can know that the souls that come after us have a grounding that's going to enliven and create an experience that's so far beyond anything any of us could imagine. And yet, by us doing some groundwork now, as this crash is happening, by us contributing, we, I think, can allow for that to happen. And even if it won't happen in our lifetime, like mine, probably not, but even if it doesn't happen in a particular lifetime, you can expect that the result will happen. You have faith that will happen, and everything that you do, the people you connect with, live on. And it's knowing that, or having faith in that, that I think makes it more possible. It's not just, oh, okay, it all has to happen now. It's viewing a longer picture and realizing your connection to a larger whole and to a larger timeline, or a longer timeline. The longer view allows you to not get sucked into the fear elements that go on a regular basis. And because of that, it actually can give you more energy to transpire and move forward than if you're always looking at, what's going to happen next? What do other people say? Instead, it's finding that place of refuge, wherever that might be, and then it's listening, and then working with a bit of faith and going off of that, connecting to other people. Anyway, you get the idea. And those are my thoughts on the whole thing. And if you found this video helpful, be sure to give it a like. Thanks a lot for watching. I'll see you next time. And what do you call it?
It's a salmon fly.
Hammer fly, huh? Ah, that's pretty cool.
So they only
It's
hatch.
like he likes the bush beer.
They only hatch like for a couple of weeks every year.
Yeah.
We'll see if a live trout will eat it. I'd like to see if the trout are like it.
As long as you listen, always listen.